Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining. It's bang on the hour, so I think we will probably get started around now. So I'll hand over to yourself, Zancy.
Thanks, Ellen. So hello and welcome, everyone. Ignore the little dings as they come in. We've still got people coming in and arriving late, so I hope that doesn't distract you too much. My name is Xanthi Solsberger, and I'll be hosting the event today, our deep dive into data. So I'm the operations manager in the data team, and it's my privilege to work with some of the best and brightest talent in the data space every day. Today, we'll have a Q&A session around what you want to know about our data team, our goals, our ambitions, and of course the grad talent program here at Xero. So just before I start, a little bit of housekeeping. If you could all put yourselves on mute, that would be absolutely fantastic. So if we move on to the next slide, I just want to introduce some very important people in today's presentation. So we've got Alice and Ellen. Do you want to wave out, Alice and Ellen? Say hi. Brilliant. They're our grad experience advisors who will answer any questions around the structure of the graduate program here at Xero. And we have Suni Chair and Grace Eglinton. So wave.
Hello.
Fantastic. Suni is our GM of Science, Evaluation and Measurement, and Grace is a former graduate of our graduate program and is also an engineer in our platforms team. So if we move on the agenda today. So first up, we have an introduction to Xero from Ellen, and then Alice will take us through our junior talent program. We'll have a wee panel discussion, and thank you so much for submitting your questions beforehand. And we will take you through some of those questions and fire them out to our panel today. And then we'll end with a bit of a Q&A. So if you've got any questions during the presentation, there will be an opportunity for you to ask them in a Q&A session in a live chat box, in which Ellen and Alice will go through those at the end of the session and make sure that they are covered. So if we move on to the next slide. Again, I just want to remind us of our housekeeping rules. So if you turn your mics off, you can drop off at any given time, no offence is taken, because the session will be recorded and you can see the little recording button in the left-hand side. Questions in a chat box or asked during the Q&A. So any questions that you might have from the presentation will be answered at the end of this presentation. And of course, we will send out the event recording, and that will be in your inbox by tomorrow morning. So moving on. Just a little bit of a where are you joining from us? Where are you joining from today? So in the chat box on the side, the little green box, you'll see that just at the top. So just write in and let us know where you're joining from today. Is it Australia? Is it New Zealand? What part? Oh my goodness, there are a lot from Melbourne. My goodness me. Sam, Jason, oh, fantastic. Alice Williams, Wellington. Nice to represent in Wellington. I'm from Auckland myself. Wellington, New Zealand, Ollie. Queenstown, Lucy Hughes, Queenstown, fantastic. What a beautiful part of the world. Stephen, lovely to see you in Auckland. Bhati, you're from India, fantastic. So we've got people all around the world. We've got people in the North Island of New Zealand, the South Island, and we've got people from Australia as well. So welcome all. So nice to have a bit of a global event on the cards today. And hopefully you'll learn a little bit more about our data team from this presentation. Fantastic. So let's all move to the next slide.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Xanthi. So I'll just give a quick overview of kind of who we are at Xero and a little bit about our vision and purpose. Hopefully quite a few of you have heard about us before, but if you haven't, that's fine. That's probably why you're on the call and keen to come and chat to us and hear all about us. So who are we? Who is Xero? So we're a global leader in online accounting software. So we support businesses or business owners with providing real-time visibility of their financial positions. So that might be helping them understand what their monthly cash flow is like. It might help them with issuing invoices, with paying employees. So a lot of the kind of financial elements that come with running a business. And as you can see, there's a bit of a snapshot of what some of the software looks like. If anyone kind of runs their own business or have family that do, you might have kind of, had a little bit of exposure to using us before. So that's us. And then in terms of our purpose, if we pop over to the next slide. Cool. So our purpose, the purpose of any business or any person, I guess, is, what makes us get out of bed in the morning? What makes us turn on our laptops? Why do we come to work? And the purpose at Xero is to make life better for people in small business, their advisors, and communities around the world. So what do we mean by this? Just go back there one, Alice, thank you. So what do we mean by this? So, for us, it's not just about selling them a product, but it's about thinking about ways that we can support them with making running their small business as simple and seamless as possible. Again, if you have family that run a business or if you have a side hustle, I'm sure you'll appreciate that it can be a very, very stressful thing to do. So we want to try and make their life as easy as possible by providing them with some beautiful accounting software to do that. Not just the business owners as well. So it's, their advisors, maybe accounting practices they work with, and their communities. And we truly are a global company. So we started in New Zealand and quickly expanded to the Australian market, to the US and the UK. And we're also expanding out now to Asia. And we've got offices dotted around the world. So truly are a global company. Next slide, please, Alice. Thank you. So if our purpose is, why we get out of bed in the morning, our vision is kind of our end state. What are we trying to achieve? What's our end goal? And for us, it's to be the most insightful and trusted small business platform. So what do I mean by this? So, being insightful to us, it's not just about recording data and playing it back. It's about thinking about how we can, get that data and play it back in really meaningful ways to help small businesses kind of connect the dots and maybe see opportunities and really support them with running their business. Being trusted is a really big underpinning as well. So, not having trust, it's such an important thing because it doesn't, necessarily win you customers, but a loss of trust will definitely lose you customers pretty quickly. So being trusted by our customers is a massive underpinning for us. And lastly, a business platform as well. So, we've got quite a large ecosystem of apps and other companies that connect with the Xero platform. So it's not necessarily just what we've built or what we've created, but it's about helping sort of integrate other services so we can really add as much value to our customers as possible. Awesome. So that's a very quick snapshot of Xero. In terms of just a little bit about our timeline, so we started in 2006. We had about 4 staff and started in a living room in Wellington. Flash forward to present day, and we've got about 3,500 staff around the globe and over 2 million customers. So we're growing at a crazy pace, and it really is a very exciting time to join Xero if we're a company of interest to you. Awesome. Cool. I'm going to hand over to Alice now, who's going to give a quick overview about the graduate and intern opportunities available.
Thanks so much, Ellen. Awesome. So, I guess this is a little bit of an overview to see if you would like to work with us either as a graduate or as an intern this year. So to start with, I'll talk about the graduate program. Specifically within the data space. It really is an awesome way to start your career. Applications are currently open, as you'll see. So we open on the 1st of March. For Australia, the application date is closing really soon. So do get involved if you're interested. So they close next Friday. And for New Zealand, we're open a couple of weeks longer. So we close on the 14th. If you do want to apply, please know that you will need to start with the rest of the graduate cohort in February 2022. That's normally the middle of the month, so at the end of your summer holidays, at the end of your university degree. And it is a permanent role from day one. We have a graduate year where you rotate through different teams, which I'll talk about in just a second, but you are a permanent employee from day one. And in terms of locations for the data grad program, we have opportunities in Melbourne, in Auckland, and in Wellington available. So what's the program like? I just mentioned that it's rotational, so I'll tell you a little bit more about that right now. So we have 4 rotations. So quick maths, you do a rotation every 3 months. And basically what you do is you rotate into different teams and get exposure to different tech stack, different areas, and really push your limits in terms of what you currently know, what you want to know, what you want to learn. And by the end of the year, you have a better idea of where you would like to end up. So it's a really cool opportunity if you have a real kind of keenness for learning as much as you can. And also if you aren't 100% sure exactly which area within data or the tech space that you want to move into just yet, which I think a lot of people can relate to. So during the year, you'll have a buddy that is assigned to you from within the team that you're doing a rotation in for each rotation. So over that year, you'd get 4 buddies total, but throughout the whole year, you'll have a dedicated people lead who'll help you figure out what your career goals are and sort of how you can align that with the rotations that you're doing. And if you'd like to learn a bit more, you can have a look at our grad sites, either for New Zealand or Australia, depending on where you'd like to apply. We also have internships available in New Zealand this year, not in Australia within the data space, but we do have other roles available there. But for New Zealand, in terms of the data internships, this is an awesome opportunity for you to join us for a 3-month period over the summer. So it's normally from the middle of November through to the middle of February. And this is specifically for people in their penultimate or second to last year of university. So it's 3 months paid, you're with real teams doing real work, and if it all goes really well, there is a strong potential for you to be offered a role in our next year's grad program. So it's as much our interest as well as it is yours to offer that grad role to you. So it's a really awesome opportunity to join us and potentially join us the next year as well, full time. And we have roles available in both the Auckland and the Wellington office for the internship. We hire everyone for our internships in New Zealand through Summer of Tech. If you're interested in internships for Australia, you can look at the graduate website to apply directly, but for New Zealand, it's through Summer of Tech. So make sure you've signed up and registered through Summer of Tech. They've got heaps of workshops and boot camps that you can get involved in as well. So they're really great at upskilling you over the course of the year too. So just a little bit about the recruitment process. You can find out in a bit more detail about this if you look at our websites. But just to give you a high-level overview, basically you apply, and if you are put through to the next stage and are eligible, we will send you a technical assessment, and that is in the form of a HackerRank test. If you're not familiar with HackerRank, just literally Google HackerRank and you can go and have a look at the website. It's a testing platform that's language agnostic, so have a little play around, get used to it before we potentially send you that test for you to actually do. If you're successful at that stage, we then send you a video interview, and that is 4 questions that we'll ask you, which are pre-recorded, and you can do it whenever you're ready, when you've got a quiet moment. It takes about 12 to 15 minutes to complete, and you record your answer, and then we review it at a later date. If you're successful at all of those stages, we then would invite you to what's called a grad day. And that essentially is a day of 3 interviews. And all of those interviews this year will be run virtually to give people from all different locations around the world equal opportunity to interview with us. And then we would send out the offers at the end of that. Ooh. Great. I will now hand back over to Xanthi for the panel session.
Thank you so much. And if you've got any questions, just a reminder, pop them in the Q&A function. You can find that at the top right of the Google Meet page. click on the little triangle, circle, square button, select Q&A. You can submit a question there, and then others can upvote your question or vice versa. Alice and Ellen will then answer the most upvoted questions within the time period that we've got left at the end of this presentation, and we'll fire those questions out to the data team after the panel. So we've had a question through, Ellen, about what kind of support or programs would a grad receive in our graduate program. So if you could just elaborate and unpack that a little bit more, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a lot of grads often ask this question, and it's a great question to ask. And lots is the very short answer. So there's lots of support that you get given throughout your grad year. The whole point of a graduate program is for you to learn. So soak up all that knowledge around you and get as much out of the grad year as possible. So the support you're given, you'll have your team around you. You'll have your people lead, which is another word for what we call manager. You'd also be assigned a buddy as well, and the buddies often change per rotation. So the team you're in, you've got someone that's doing the work and is there with you to support you the whole way, and you also have the grad team. So myself and Alice are also on hand as well, so lots of different people to turn to for support. In terms of training and development, we place a massive emphasis on that here at Xero, not just for the grads but for everyone. So for the grads specifically, we do weekly training. So every Friday there's a training session on lots of different topics, sometimes technical, sometimes soft skill, to really help you improve the areas that you're looking to improve on, and learn all that knowledge that you're here to learn. And there's also a very healthy learning and development budget as well. So if there's a particular area that you want to upskill in, you have a budget to be able to spend on, whether that's a course or reading material or a subscription to a provider or whatever it is. We're able to support you with that. So lots of great stuff, available.
Thanks, Ellen. And visas and eligibility for those interested in applying in New Zealand or Australia. Alice, do you have a little bit more information about that?
Yeah, sure. So in Australia, all applicants, either for the internships or the full-time graduate roles, they need to have working rights, essentially, in a nutshell. So make sure you have that. We're not immigration advisors, so unfortunately I can't hand out any advice in regards to that, but that's basically the situation for Australian applications. And for New Zealand, you would need to be a resident of New Zealand or Australia or a citizen to be eligible to apply.
Thanks, Alice. And a question for Suni now. So students often get confused between all of the different data roles in the space. So clarification around helping students choose so what do we have available in the data team, and a bit of clarification around how do students choose their career path and do a bit of a pick a path within the data space?
Yeah, it's a really great question, and I think it's probably worth separating out into two parts, right? Like as a data graduate, the goal is to, in that year, be a generalist, right? Like there's no expectation that you will be an expert in any one field of data in that year. But to answer what happens sort of after your graduate year, so within the data team, there's sort of a few different disciplines that we have. So there's data platforms, which would be the engineers that are responsible for building and maintaining the tools and the infrastructure and making sure that all the incredible volumes of data are moving through the system as intended. And then there's data enrichment engineering, which is kind of looking at applying the transformations and the joins and the enrichments to turn that data into, I guess, some of a form that is more easily consumed or more easily used by people that are trying to derive some sort of insight from that data. We have applications engineers. They look at sort of either building APIs or some of the visualization tools and sort of the business intelligence applications. There's science, which is sort of my area where we look to apply machine learning to build products. And there's also analytics, which is sort of, we have all these products in the wild and they are sort of operating, and we need to understand, well, is it delivering value? Are people sort of getting value from our product? And that's sort of another area. And lastly, there's sort of like the strategy and governance functions. So like where should, and it's, I don't know yet if that's an area that graduates will get a lot of exposure to, but it's really the function that decides what we should be doing and answering the really hard questions around the ethics of using data. So those are the sorts of areas that existed in the data team. Obviously, the rotations would kind of give you an opportunity to see elements of those things. But as I said at the start, there's no expectation that you'll be an expert in any one of these on day one.
Brilliant. And we've also got evangelism as well, don't we? So trying
Yes.
to evangelize the rich experiences that data does give. So we've got that piece within our team as well. And thinking about our attributes of a grad, so what types of attributes would you expect, or do you anticipate you would see within our grads for the data team, Suni?
Yeah, so I think this is probably the one of the most commonly asked questions, and I think it's worth taking a step back and providing a little bit of perspective on this. So for graduates to be successful, there are some fundamentals that need to be in place, right? And you'll see that in the hacker rank as well, in that you need to be comfortable with writing code. You need to be, it doesn't have to be, the best, the most elegant, or the sort of, incredible one-liners or anything, but it's like, you need to be comfortable writing code. We are, at the end of the day, a SaaS company, and the first S in SaaS is software. So you need to be able to write code. And then from that point on, really, once you've crossed that sort of, threshold of basic skill, I think the attribute that we're really looking for is willingness to learn and grow, right? It's the graduate year, as sort of Ellen has said, it's really a year that is about your growth, your development and setting up the foundations for your career. And so what we're really looking for are people that have a growth mindset, that are really looking to learn. And I guess in a sense, not sort of coming into this with the attitude of wanting to sort of prove themselves, but really come in and just learn as much as they can. Because really and that to me is sort of the defining trait of really successful applicants and graduates that have gone on, which is just a real hunger to learn and just soaking everything in like a sponge.
If I can add to that, I thought that was quite interesting, you talking about
Yes.
that attribute of it. But yeah, I think the way that Xero hires in that sense is actually really awesome, because when you actually, just speaking from when I joined as a grad, everyone was almost the same. You were almost like friends instantly, just because of how you guys kind of had the same values or morals towards things, and it kind of grew like a really cool friendship in that way. And you guys had a support system that was right from the start, and you guys could go to each other for anything. So yeah, I think it really shows through the hiring process there as well.
And moving on from that, Grace, being a former grad and now one of those individuals that has blossomed and has grown their career and is now one of the superstars here at Xero. I know, big shoes to fill, people. Tell me a little bit about your experience, what was expected from you, what did you learn in that first year, what was it like?
Yeah, the first obviously the first few weeks, well, actually leading up to the first few weeks, you're just like super nervous. I think that's like the biggest thing. You really don't know what you're getting yourself into. And I think that kind of scared me to start with. But literally within like the first week, those worries and like that stress kind of all just disappears, because they've set up the program so nicely with like your support system, what Ellen was saying previously. You know, you get a buddy, you get a technical buddy, you get a buddy for just like going to kind of throughout the year, you get a manager and a grad team lead and things like that. So they are there for great support, but I don't think you realize how easy it actually is to just go to them and be like, oh, I'm struggling in something, like, please help me. And also something that I thought was really awesome throughout the year is that even though you're rotating between 4 different teams, every single member in all those different teams are willing to help you learn. So you can go up to any single one of them. I mean, I don't know how, I guess we're going to be quite remote in terms of the following year. I'm not really sure in Oz. But yeah, I know that in New Zealand, you know, you just tap someone on the shoulder and it's like instant, and they're willing to help you, which is really cool. What I actually was doing in my grad year, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different, I think, from what you guys will probably be doing, because the team's grown so much already. But I mean, you could really be doing anything from AI, machine learning, to data analytics, working with visualization tools. We use something called MicroStrategy, which is quite cool. You could do data modeling. You could be working with the data platform and maintaining the data at high quality. So there's really so many different aspects that you can kind of lean in. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that needed to be said there, but it's, yeah, coming into the grad program, I don't know if it's not something where you'll be like segregated out and you'd be given work to work on that's like not of value. It's definitely like you're getting slotted into the team, and yeah, you'll be providing that value right from there. So it's awesome.
So any tips for your first few weeks?
Don't stress. That's like the main thing. Yeah. Yeah, I think it is just like not worrying, because if you worry about certain things, it just stresses you out too much. But the first few weeks, get to know as many people as possible, because those relationships last throughout the year and they're awesome to have. Yeah.
Brilliant. And we often get questions, Suni. That's Grace's dog. It's very cute. It is a very cute dog. Suni, we often get questions around who's consuming our data and who are the customers. So what I'd like to know is what type of data do we produce and how is it being used here at Xero?
Yeah, I think it's a really it's a good question, because it will allow me to explore, I guess, some of the breadth of what we do. So within the data team, like, data is used everywhere at Xero, right? Like, it's used for products, it's used for decision making. You know, the CFO looks at data to determine the financial position of Xero. And so in many respects, I would say that the consumers of Xero can broadly be classed into 2 groups, right? There are internal consumers, which would be people within Xero that are looking at our data, and they're generally using it to make decisions or build new products or understand the state of our business or things that we can do internally better. And then there are external consumers, which would be our customers who are kind of consuming our products. So the data team and data at Xero more broadly, like, services both of those groups. So I can't name them all. There are a lot of them, but suffice it to say that we have a really diverse group of consumers that go all, and virtually every Xero will consume data internally. And then our customers are obviously accountants, bookkeepers, small businesses, and they too will be consuming the outputs of the data team through the products that we build.
Brilliant. And at Xero, we solve a lot of problems. And here in the data team, we solve a lot of, even more sometimes, I think, and lots of sticky solution finding problems, in which we often say at Xero, we need to fall in love with the customer problem to really understand what steps of what we need to do next. So what I really want to know from you, Suni, are there any exciting initiatives of note that you've worked on that you know have made the life of our customers a lot easier?
Yeah, so I think, it's like I have a saying, right, which is that no one starts a small business to use Xero. Right? Like, people start small businesses because they're passionate about something. They feel that they have something to offer the world, right? And Xero is really about enabling that, right? And we're a tool that empowers these small business owners to focus on the things that matter. And so where I'm really excited about some of the products that we build is where we can make their lives genuinely better. So the probably the most relatable example of that is we have a product called HubDoc that basically uses machine learning to get structured financial information out of documents, right? And so if you think about, like, you're a small business, you have all your data in Xero, it's really nice. We use APIs, it's very clean, but real business happens using bits of paper, people email you PDFs and all of that. And data entry is not something that differentiates you from your competitor, in that you're not going to beat your competitors by doing your data entry better, right? And so it's just toil for a small business owner. And so, in HubDoc, what we're able to do is, and in many parts of Xero, actually, we do this, is apply machine learning to take the toil out of data entry. So we get these documents, we use machine learning to turn that into structured data that can then be consumed into Xero without someone needing to sort of do manual data entry. So that's one example, and I think it's of where we're really sort of making people's lives better and fulfilling our mission to help them flourish. So that's an example of where I'm really excited to be having that impact.
And you're doing amazing work. It's phenomenal to see how much that has really removed toil from our customers. So brilliant work there with your team. And I know that you alluded to the fact that coding was part of the graduate profiling that we do, and the quality of code. Grace, just from your perspective, what programs or languages are most used here in the data team?
Yeah, I mean, you could really ramble off like so many different ones. There are obviously so many different teams that we have, but yeah, I was really involved in things like Python and SQL. You're working with things like GitHub, and I saw the question before, MicroStrategy, question mark. Yeah, we use that. It's our visualization tool. So how we actually surface reports and make it all pretty for people to look at. Yeah, also working with things like AWS and Westscape Red, which is one of our data modeling tools. But yeah, I could go on. There's so many. But if the question, if people want to know if they need to learn these before they come in, that's not anything that needs to be worried about. It all gets taught to you. Getting into the program, you're there to learn and take everything in. So don't come into it thinking that you need to know everything. It's a very similar thought to what I had. I know I came out of a computer science degree with probably very limited data papers, and I was like, oh no, am I not going to know everything? Am I not going to be up to scratch? But yeah, once you're actually in it, they're teaching you that right from the get-go. So you don't need to know. You don't need to come into it knowing everything.
I think the thing to, I guess, highlight, if at all, is, you know, Python probably is the one sort of language that you want to have some foundations in, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is reflected in our hacker rank as well. So it would be definitely Python if you had to choose one language.
Yes, that's actually a good point. Yeah, basic understanding of things like code is very important. But yeah. All things like technologies that you learn or softwares that you use, you pick that up.
Yeah. Could I just quickly add to that as well from Ellen and my point of view, because we're reviewing all these lovely applications, is that we are like Grace, like Sunny have been saying, we're not looking for you to be perfect at anything right now at all. So a good foundational knowledge that you can show through the HackerRank is great. What we are looking for is evidence of your learning agility, of your curiosity, and that can be shown sometimes in the modules that you've been studying, but it's sometimes shown through things like GitHub or other passion projects. So if you haven't applied yet and you're thinking about doing it, hyperlink in your CV to any and all projects that you think could show and prove to us that you are someone who loves to constantly learn and evolve your mindset and your skill set. That'll really help us know that you would be able to soak up all of the information and different skills that you'll be learning on the grad program over the course of that year. That's the kind of thing that we're looking for, more than someone who's perfect at Python. Not that that's even a thing that you can be, but yeah.
Brilliant. And that's a great point. Absolutely. So in the application, show us what you can do. We'd love to see it. Would absolutely love to see it. Grace, we work quite cross-functionally across some teams, don't we? So we don't always just work within the data team, or we don't always just work within our functional team or our pod. We work quite cross-functionally and have fantastic conversations around, you know, next steps and solving problems. So talk to me about a real example or scenario around some of the fantastic different initiatives that you've been involved in.
Yeah. I think, well, I can really talk from my grad year, which was, I guess, how people want to know how it went. The very first 2 weeks that I joined and got put to work, I actually got put on a project with some people from marketing teams, and they had done a survey. I don't know how in depth I can really go about these things, but we had to surface that data and make it possible for them to view it, analyze it, and view it through our tool called MicroStrategy, so that they could then do, I guess, make marketing decisions for their campaign that they were doing. And yeah, that was quite cool to do in your first 2 weeks in your new role, and they actually still use it to this day. So I'm still talking to those team members and working with them on that project, which is pretty cool, because I don't think you think going into it that you're going to be put on something that's going to provide some good value, I guess, and I guess that's one good example there. Yeah.
Brilliant. So you're pulling out the data so the marketing team can make good decisions about what they wanted to execute into the market, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Very cool. And before we move on to the Q&As that have been happening in the background, and thank you so much for your questions in the background there, everyone. I just wanted to ask Sunny if there's anything else you wanted to add.
Me?
Yeah. Is there something that you we haven't covered in the questions that you wanted to, some hints or tips that you wanted to give to the grads before we move on to the Q&A? You're a very insightful, intelligent man. I'm sure there's an amazing life hack that you can give out to our grads here.
No pressure, Sunny.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, I think something that I would say to all of you as a group is a couple of things, right? Like the fact that you are here on this call, you are very likely to have a successful career. Like you are motivated, you are driven. I was not one of those people that dialed into like a graduate program information session, and I'm here. So the people that do are well ahead of me. So you will be fine is the first thing that I would say. And I think the other thing as well is a career in data is really exciting now. And you are planning your careers, and that is fantastic. But don't get too wedded or wedded to the idea of being in data, and don't get too discouraged if you don't end up in exactly the field that you want, right? And I say that having been trained as a pharmacist, right? So like I started as a pharmacist and I've ended up here. And if you think about it, if you look at any super successful executive, or the CEO of Xero, Steve Vamos, when he was a graduate, cloud accounting was not a thing, right? And he leads a company now that does cloud accounting, and it's going to be the same for your career. Like the rate of change is faster now than when Steve was a graduate. So it's like you will have successful careers, and if you look forward 30 years from now, it will probably be in something that doesn't even exist right now, right? It might be, I don't know, like Martian settlement or something, who knows, right? But it's like, I think just keep that in mind, right? Like you're planning a career for a very long term, and it's like, I hope that takes some of the pressure off, things that are going to happen, in 1 year or like in 6 months. So those would be my two thoughts.
Grace, did you ever think you'd have a career in data? When you were in year 13 at Aquinas College in Tauranga, in a little town with, bearing on 5,000, I don't know how many people are in Tauranga these days, must be about 20,000, I'm not entirely sure. When you were in year 13 and you were graduating at Aquinas College, did you think that you would have a career in data here at Xero? What were your career aspirations then? And then what were your career aspirations when you graduated? Where did you think you would go?
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting question, because I actually wanted to be a vet. And that is completely not what I ended up doing. I think I decided I wanted to be a few different things, and then found out about, obviously, coding. I did no coding at school, so I went into university with no knowledge whatsoever. And then I guess coming out of it, I did obviously computer science degree, but didn't really know too much in terms of the different career paths that you can take. And then Xero actually came to our university and spoke there. And I was like, oh, well, that sounds like a great place to start, because I can just go into this and try all these different things, and then I could be like, okay, cool, maybe I'll pick that one. So yeah, for someone who definitely didn't know where they were going when they finished uni, and still am a little bit unsure, and feel like I'm definitely in the right place, I would say, yeah, the grad program is definitely a place to start if that's how you feel also.
Absolutely. And being malleable in your career. And I remember reading a book, The Never Say No. So never say no to an opportunity that comes across your path, because you never know which path it's going to take. Brilliant. So that's the end of our formal panel. And now, Alice and Alan, you'll have some questions there from from everyone on the call. So if you wanted to throw that out to the most appropriate person on the panel, that would be absolutely fantastic.
Perfect. So question for Alice to start off with. Can I start any earlier than next February since I'm finishing university soon?
That's a really good question. And unfortunately, the answer to that is no, but there is a pretty good reason for it. It's due to the fact that it is a rotational program and we have all the graduates in that cohort moving through the rotations at the same time as each other. It's quite a big logistical undertaking, and so for that reason we need everyone to be starting the program at the same time. And then at the end of your graduate year, you do something which we call it ungraduation, where you leave the grad year and you join your team for the foreseeable future, and that also obviously is something that happens at the same time. So it's to kind of provide a consistency of experience for everyone over the course of the year, and yeah, make sure that everyone is having just as many opportunities as each other to learn, and yeah, go through the journey together as well. Like Grace was saying earlier, it's a really awesome experience to do it alongside everyone else. So unfortunately it has to be at the same time as the rest of the cohort, but thank you for the question.
Cool. Thanks, Alice. A question around the hacker rank, so maybe best for Sunny. How can we best prepare for the hacker rank? For example, should we focus on algorithms or pre-processing or modeling, or do you have any tips for that part of the assessment?
Yeah, so I think the hacker rank, I can tell you that the hacker rank is not like a algorithms like assessment. Like we're not going to ask you to balance a binary tree or something like that. That's not really what it's there to do. What I would say is, in preparing for the hacker rank, work on documenting your code and documenting your thought process as you write your code, right? So when you attempt the hacker rank, yes, the problem will come from a very specific domain that if you happen to have worked in that domain before, you might be able to go slightly quicker or whatever. But what we are looking at in the hacker rank is not the solution, but the thinking around it, right? So it is completely okay for us if you are unable to get a working solution to it, so long as you document and we can see very clearly how you thought about the problem. And that's, kind of more important to us. If you solved our hacker rank with a one-liner, like you managed to write a single one-liner in Python that solved it, that doesn't guarantee that you get to the next stage.
Awesome, thank you. Question for Grace. What does a typical day look like for you?
If we're talking about now I'm a data engineer. It really depends. Every day is a little bit different. You are dealing with agile Scrum working. So you kind of get a ticket picked up off the queue and you work on it, and you work through it. Obviously test your work and get it peer reviewed and things like that. Your day really, it's mainly ticket based work, so you're working on things like that. And then there are also things like monitoring and alerting that comes up, where in our case we work with a data platform, so if something goes wrong we get alerts, and we pick up on those pretty fast, and we have to work through those, which can be pretty intense but also really fun at the same time. And yeah, you're obviously a lot of meetings, a lot of talking to people through what we're doing right now, and yeah, kind of just working through issues with multiple different people from really across any part of the team.
Awesome, thank you. I've had a question probably good one for Alice to answer. Around what happens at the end of the 12-month grad program. So once a grad graduates, how does it work? What team do they go into? Is it dependent on the grad or the team, or how does that process work?
Yeah, I just saw that one come through. That's a really great question as well. Thanks for that. So essentially, again, it's quite a logistical undertaking, but in a nutshell, what happens is we, a few weeks before you ungraduate, go out to the business and all the different teams that you and the other grads have rotated through during the year, and we ask them to consider whether they would be able to take a grad into their team for the someone who's about to finish the grad program, a current grad, into their team for the foreseeable future. So they make sure that they have enough work, enough support, and all of those kinds of things for you to join the team. And they then tell us if they can do that. We then go to you, all of the grad cohort, with those options for you to consider for about 1 to 2 weeks. You normally end up joining a team that you have done a rotation in over the course of that year. It's very rare that people don't do that, but yeah, essentially you consider all of those different options, and obviously they're subject to availability. And then you tell us, the grad team, what your preferences are, and we do our absolute best to match you up with your number one preference. Last year, I believe it was only a couple of people who didn't get their number one preference, and that was purely because there were a couple of teams that were just oversubscribed. But yeah, pretty much everyone gets their number one preference, and then you roll off the program at the end of that grad year, and you join the team as an associate, and you are with them until you decide to go into another part of the business at another time. So that's really how it works. You tell us, and we make it possible if that's available within the business. And we have a cute ceremony as well to roll you off the program called On Graduation, inventive name, and we all eat cake and celebrate the year. So yeah, it's a nice wholesome day.
Awesome. Thank you, Alice. We've had a question around the types of teams that would be available to rotate into. I know we've kind of touched on this briefly, but maybe Sonia or Grace could talk about a little bit more about the different teams that are options for rotations in the data department.
Yeah, I think so. I guess I'm trying to think of a useful way to answer this question, because the way the rotations work is that, like, if you wanted, you could go to any of the teams within Xero, right? Which kind of expands your horizons to the point where it's very hard for me to enumerate all the things that you could be working on. But broadly, what I would say is that within the data team, there are sort of engineering rotations that take you through platforms where you work on the infrastructure, the things that hold the data. There's going to be engineering rotations where you work on the actual transforms and jobs that do that operate on the data. Then there's rotations where you look at the applications that you build on top of the data, and there are science ones. Those are the ones that we had last year, which is not to say that they will be exactly the same next year, but those are the ones we had last year. And then if you go outside of the data team, which is an option in your graduate year, then all of Xero is your oyster.
Great, thank you. I had another question. Oh, this is quite a tough one. Where do you see the future of Xero and working with data going in the future?
Where do we not? Hey, Sony, where do we not?
Yeah, I think it's a really good, it's a good question, and it's one that we know what we want to achieve, right? And I think Ellen spoke to that. We want to be the most trusted and insightful small business platform, and we're reasonably sure about what that looks like for the next sort of year year or 5 in terms of data. We know that we need to sort of have world-class data platforms, right? That store the data in a way that it can be used, in a way that it's tracked, in a way that is secure, in a way that ensures that only the right people have access to that data. Then we need to find really innovative ways to use it, right? To generate the insights that people care about, and ultimately let them focus on what really matters, which is their small business. And we have obviously a product roadmap that I can't share too much about. So we have a good idea of where we want to go for the next 3 to 5 years in terms of really practical things. But I think to try and answer the question in a way that's not just saying we have a product roadmap that I can't tell you anything about. Ultimately, we want to be a company that is using data to make every part of operating a small business easier, right? So, whether it is getting, accessing credit or finance, or sending out invoices or receiving invoices, or managing your cash flow. Like, these are all the areas that we are going to be trying to use data to make the lives of small business owners and their advisors better. And that's really what we aim to do. And we don't claim to know exactly how that's going to look, right? We know what we want to do, and people like yourself are going to play a really important role in shaping what that actually looks like.
Great, thank you very much. Questions, might be a question for me actually. I think someone was asking around the amount of roles available in Melbourne for next year, and currently we have 2 graduate positions available in Melbourne. Question for Alice: what does the grad day look like, the assessment centre?
Sure. So in terms of the grad day, and this could be subject to change, just FYI, it is something that could be slightly different to this. It really depends. But what happened last year and what we are probably going to be doing this year as well is there is a technical skills interview. And what that normally entails is that's not someone grilling you on your technical knowledge. You normally are told in advance to arrive on the day with a demo or a project that you've worked on, and you sort of showcase that in the interview. And that could be by sharing your screen, for example, if it's a virtual interview. And once you've showcased this project or this demo with the interviewers, and it'll be 2 interviewers who are talking with you, they then ask you questions around this project, and you answer them to the best of your ability. So it's more asking technical questions around something that you yourself have made or that you know a lot about. So that's what the technical skills interview in a nutshell is. Then you would have a soft skills interview, which is the aim of that, or the purpose of that interview, is to see if you would be a fit and also a culture add to our organization. What you'll see if you look at our website is that we have 5 key values. So read up on those and think to yourself, do I genuinely feel like I align with these? Because those are things that will be important for you to make the most out of your time here, and and feel really at home if you do join the company. And then finally, and by the way, they're not necessarily in this precise order, it might be in a slightly different order on the day. The third one is called research and present. And what we would do here is, with some other graduate applicants on the same day, you are told to go away and research for around, I think it's 15 minutes, to go away and research a particular topic which we have assigned to you randomly as an individual. And then you come back after 15 minutes to that group and also a couple of interviewers, and you present on that topic for 2 minutes. And it's normally a topic that you might know a tiny bit about, maybe even nothing about. But what we're assessing there is your ability to, it's a little bit of a challenge, obviously, it's a little bit nerve-wracking having to go away and research everything you can about something and then deliver it back to probably a virtual room full of strangers. But what we're trying to look for here is your ability to absorb lots of information quite quickly, communicate it back in an effective way. So it's a little bit looking at your communication skills. It's a little bit looking at how you take information and digest it and then feed it back to people. So yeah, there's a few different things that we look at in terms of getting ready for that kind of day. Honestly, with the soft skills interview, you can't really revise the topic that is yourself. So turn up and be yourself. With the technical skills, obviously, you'd have to come ready with a demo or a project. So there's a little bit of preparation there. And with research and present, you just wait until that session starts and we tell you what it is in terms of the topic that you go away and research. So we've tried to kind of reduce the amount of preparation that you have to do for that kind of day. Yeah, so it's that final stage and a chance for us to see if we think you've got the learning agility and also those that matching you with, or as closely as we can, matching you or adding to the values that we live by here day to day in how we communicate and work.
Awesome. Thank you, Alice. And I'd just add on the soft skill interview as well. It's always great to kind of prepare and make sure you're able to articulate, your interest in why Xero, why the role, and not just give a generic answer. So really think about, your reasons behind that. So you're able to really kind of convince the people that you're interviewing that, you're really passionate about this opportunity and that you really want it. Awesome. So I think we're pretty much bang on to time. It's 6 p.m. in New Zealand. So I'm sure you guys are keen to get on with your evenings. But thank you so much for everyone that's joined. I'm just going to post in the chat our email address. So we're at gradcareers@xero.com. That's gradcareers@xero.com. So if you do have any other follow-up questions that we haven't had time to cover, please do drop us an email and we will cover them. We'll be sending out a survey tomorrow, just a couple of questions just to get your feedback on this event. It's the first time we've run an event like this before, so really keen to know how you found it, and we'll also be sending you the recording as well. So if you're super keen, you can watch it again and again, or obviously share the recording with any friends that weren't able to make it. But Grace, Sunny, Xanthi and Alice, thank you so much for being on our panel, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
And thank you, Ellen, as well. Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
See ya.
See ya.
Take care. Bye.